how do you decide on your criteria for property or land searches? So, utilising online resources, commercial agents, so Rightmove Commercial, or whether it be Property Link, e.g. Property Link, or anything like that, or any of your kind of local commercial agents, or some of the other portals that might give you the opportunity to submit a criteria and get notifications automatically of stuff that meets your criteria coming back, coming on the market, or being reduced, or whatever it may be. But how do you decide on the criteria to start with?
Well, I'll start with that then. I'm guessing, I suppose, it does depend on your experience. If you're just been doing flips and maybe done a little bit of HMO refurbs, you're not going to be looking for necessarily 40-50 units by yourself unless you've got help and more experienced developers around you. So I suppose your experience could define your criteria, and that's one way of defining it.
Yeah, certainly experience. I think as well, I talk about previously, operating in a window of opportunity. Now that might be linked to end value of project that you're looking to get involved in, GDV, or it could be number of units that you're comfortable with. It's great to get outside of, you're told to push your comfort zone and everything, but you don't want to go too far outside your comfort zone, because that's where mistakes can obviously be made. But that's the advantage of working with other people that have been there and done that. Just push the boundaries a little bit. So window of opportunity, in many cases, depending on where you are in the country, we would sort of be advocating that you should be looking at end value projects of 500,000 GDV, perhaps all the way up to sort of 15 million GDV. So whatever that kind of works out to, you kind of small to medium sized developments really. So obviously depending on where you are in the country, you might want to slide that scale up or not necessarily down, but certainly up if you're in higher value areas, for example. That tends to put you in the bracket of around sort of a minimum number of units. So we would always look at a minimum of 4. We wouldn't go underneath really 4 unless it was for a specific purpose. If you're doing a self build or something like that, or you're looking for a specific type of development or type of property. So yeah, we would sort of minimum 4 units, with or without planning. Obviously we'd look at stuff with planning, but we're much better sort of working within the planning process and actually adding the value there, because that's where most of the value is added. So yeah, ideally 4 units upwards, without planning primarily, and sort of at the moment it's around the kind of affordability kind of threshold really, where whatever that is in your area. So for example, in our area, properties above sort of 350, 400,000 for example, they're not particularly selling that well. It cuts down your exit routes as well from that point of view. If you're looking to refinance and hold, the higher value units, you're not necessarily going to be able to do that, or you certainly wouldn't get a good return. So our criteria is very much market dependent as well. So that just gives you a bit of an example of our criteria. So I'm sort of looking at the moment between 4 and 40 units. But we're looking at stuff, land and things like that, that's much bigger than that for more the planning promotion side of things. But if you're looking for stuff on the market for searches, or even just looking at to get feedback from your local agents, it's about having a criteria in place that's got the lines are drawn out, but it's not too narrow. You're not looking for specific things, because that's kind of needle in a haystack territory really.
It's certainly easier when you're looking for land. So we're working with some partners at the moment. We've got a specific reason for a site, so we're looking for sites I think just under 2 acres and up, because that's the minimum that we want for the particular development that's going to go on there. So that's relatively easy. So somebody else, namely Steve or one of the team or something or other, will do, search through perhaps Nimbus or whatever, and put in the criteria to say we want sites between 2 and 3 acres or something like that, Steve, and then it'll identify them pretty much straight away. Well, apparently it's straight away. I don't know whether it is or not. So, and the same thing really in terms of numbers of units. If you know what sort of type of units are suitable in a particular area, looking at what's required in the area, which is information that you'll find in the SLA and the SMA, which we talked about on the recent Sourcing Secrets Day, then that will give us an idea of densities. So that will sort of say, well, if it's 40 units, that's probably going to be, in most areas, probably 2.5 acres. So you'd be putting a search in perhaps for half an acre upwards, because less than half an acre you're not really going to get more than four units or so on it, unless obviously it's in a city or something like that where we're going to get multi-stories. So it's relatively straightforward, I think.
Okay, I think it comes down to what you're looking to achieve as well, though. Ultimately, development, successful developers, kind of our measurement of success within development is building a successful, sustainable business that is still standing, years and years to come. So you might be looking as stepping stones as your criteria. If you're looking to build relationships with, you're just going into the area for the first time, then there's no point going in the door and asking for absolutely anything and everything, or having a wide sort of criteria. You might just want to start building relationships by sort of saying, I'm after a specific I'm looking for land, for example, as Richard's saying, 2 to 3 acres at the moment, or I'm looking for development opportunities where I could build 4 to 8 houses, for example, and then see what comes back, because then each time you can go back to them and add criteria, or it gives you another kind of reason, if you like, to actually continually touch base with your local agents as well. So if you throw everything at them all at once, it's just a case of every time you go back to them, you're just checking and pestering them and prodding and poking them. Whereas actually, if you go back from and layer on layer and layer until you get and build that relationship up, then you've got more of a chance of actually them getting to know you, like you, and trust you, essentially.